I can't afford things too. But let's have an honest conversation about what I can't afford it means instead of just ending the conversation there. Because the truth is, if things end with affordability, we never get to possibility. If we talk about affordability, we never get to possibility. And possibility is where we want to live.
We are back with another show today. It's our first day fully live streaming. So if you're following me on LinkedIn, you've been able to see a couple cool interviews behind the scenes before they go live. I'm going to give you the same opportunity with Dan today. Mr. Dan Gordon, thank you for joining my show this time.
It is a delight to be here. I loved having you on for Badass Entrepreneurs Only. Let's see the magic that we can create today.
Everyone be on the lookout for that episode. I will be resharing it once it's live. And you know my story, left for dead at 21, had to redefine and navigate my life. Dan's story, he had an incredible marketing business, lost it and lost over 100K in revenue, nearly lost everything. Rather than sit and soul cry, why me? He made a bold choice to live life in a bold new direction. That is my preview for you today here on That Entrepreneur Show. Thank you for tuning in each week to make this show a top 2.5% global show. Can't do without our guests, can't do without the audience. So thank you all so much. And today's episode is brought to you by JohnFord.com. He has a brand new empathy app to go along with his empathy card set. And of course, Coming Alive podcastproduction.com. But that's the show sponsors. Today's Dan Gordon. Dan, what led you to entrepreneurship when you first got started?
Okay, so first, you did in my introduction, you said something, and I really want to harp on it. And that is that I didn't sit there and sulk. And so I want to be clear. I did sit there and sulk, right? Sulking is an important part of any down experience, right? When something bad happens to you, you can't just go, I'm going to push through this, right? You got to sulk. You got to take time. We all work in rhythms of life. And sometimes your rhythms are like this. Sometimes they are like that, right? Right. Sharp up and down. Sometimes they're more like waves coming in, right? I'm somewhere in the middle. And so there was some significant sulking time. I think what you're really saying is, how long do you want to sit there, right? How long do you want to stay there? How much of that story do you want to continually ingest, as opposed to going, okay, lick my wounds, let's get back to work. And that's exactly what I did, right? And that's what I love helping people do. Find the rhythms that you can import new things into your life instead of just trying to bang them, over your head like a big cartoon hammer.
Very well said. And that's exactly my point, where how long do you want to let something negative drag you out? Do you want to let the situation win, or do you want to win? And that's exactly what today's coach and guest did. When you were a kid, did you ever think you were going to be a coach? Did you always want to be a coach? Walk us through that early entrepreneur mindset.
No, I had no entrepreneur mindset. Look, things were rough. Okay. I don't want to get into it, but things were rough. And all things being equal, Vince, I might be living under a bridge with a needle in my arm right now. What happened ultimately in my early 30s is I recognized that I was on a path of devastation. And I thought, if I continue on this path, I know where it's going to end up, right? That bridge, that needle. So somebody very good friend said, you ought to do this personal development course. I'm like, nah, I'm not into that bullshit. But he's like, come on, give it a try. So for 3 years, she encouraged me to take this course. And what happened when I finally took it, and I remember very clearly the 3-day course, the Saturday, I'm sitting there thinking, if I am willing to have the kind of conversations these people are having and think the kind of thoughts that they're thinking, this may be a way out of this mess. And so I invested myself in this organization. Eventually, the owner of the organization flew into St. Louis where I was living. He said, I'd really love you to be an instructor. I'm like, I don't know. How much is it? $50,000? Like, no way, right? But something inside of me said I might be good at this. And so 2 years later, out of the 27 people who started with this instructor training, I was the only one who graduated, had the huge dropout rate. 2 years later, I'm out there teaching this course, changing lives, and it really transformed everything in me, right? So the entrepreneurial spirit wasn't so much of, I started at 6 years old with a lemonade stand. The entrepreneurial spirit is, there's something inside me that just doesn't want to give up. And I think for anybody listening, That's what that spirit is. It's not so much of the money that you're making, the things that you're doing. It's like you just have this sense of, I just don't want to give up, right? I want to try one more thing, right? Before I give up and get that job, let me try one more thing, right? And my life is just a conglomeration, Vince, of one more thing, right? And I am here speaking to you today because I tried one more thing before giving up.
I love it. It only takes one. You've heard me say it. This guy is living proof of that. But you've been in the trenches with all of these coaches, different experience levels, as you said, different parts of the journey. What do you find the number one reason most entrepreneurs fail? But also, what can they do to prevent it?
Okay. It's a really simple answer. It's a hard application. Your failure is based on your story, your interpretation of your experience. All right. So we talked about this earlier. About 8 years ago, I had a marketing company. In a month, it failed. I lost everything. In a month, I lost over $100,000 up to my eyeballs in debt, literally had an emotional breakdown, snot and tears on the carpet. Now, that was my story for a little while. I failed at this. The story began to evolve into, I wonder what I put in place that caused that failure. Now I could tell you another story about why somebody else caused the failure, but that's not how I live. I live in the fulcrum of my life, meaning that anything that happens in my life is a result of me, right? It's not Vince's fault. It's not my dad's fault. It's not somebody who ran me over or that, right? I created this. So why did I create the end of my business? And I came to a very surprising answer, which is I hate marketing. I'm just really good at it, but it was never supposed to be a career. So I hired someone to destroy my business to get me out of marketing, right? So that's the level that you have to operate at as an entrepreneur. This is where entrepreneurs screw up. It's the economy. It's the government. It's this person that I hired. It's anything but me. It is only you. And I'm going to give you this example. If I'm on the way to the most important business meeting of my life, right? And on the way there, somebody runs a red light, slams into my car. The question I'm ultimately going to ask myself is, why didn't I want to go to that meeting? Now, I have a very good story about why I did, right? But the fact that I didn't end up there tells me I didn't want to go to that meeting. Maybe I was thinking I'm not quite prepared. I wish I had another day, right? Whatever I imagine, whatever story was going on in my mind, that's what I manifested. So this is the truth. Whatever is going on in your life is a snapshot of what you believe. Whatever is going on in your life is a snapshot of what you believe. If you don't like the things that are going on in your life, it's because of those beliefs. To understand why you're bringing these things in that you don't like, and that's where you begin to shift things. That's where you fail. You fail in the point where you don't take responsibility for what you have created. Now, ultimately, what is key is to understand that failure is not the end of your story. It is the middle of your story. When you're watching Star Wars and the Millennium Falcon gets sucked into the Death Star, imagine if they rolled the credits right there. You'd be like, whoa, hold on, wait, what happens to them? You go, no, that's the end of the story. They get caught by the Empire. That's it. No. That's not how stories work. We want a resolution. The same is true with you. You're constantly in the center of your story when you're not liking your story. You're at the end of a chapter when you do like it.
And that is incredibly well said. The downs aren't forever. You got to get up, dust yourself off. Look how far today's coach has come. And you talk about owning our creations, owning what we're doing, and we can't do that unless we're truly passionate about what we're doing. I can agree with that. You promote authentic sales in your own style called No Douchebag Selling. Yes. What does that mean? Why did you coin that? I need to know more.
So I started calling it selling authentically, and people were like, oh yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. And then I started calling it No Douchebag Selling, and everybody laughed, right? Everybody had a good experience with that. Okay. So this is me taking responsibility for my programs and what I teach, because number one, whatever you're doing, it has to be interesting. Interesting is more important than good. Now, good is a very close second, but it's still a second. Right? Selling authentically is very important. You need to be authentic in your sales because that's how you build relationships, long-term relationships. Long-term relationships build long-term income, blah, 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 blah. So freaking boring. No Douchebag Selling, a lot more interesting. You're going to lean in and want to know more. Once I get that lean in, now I got you. Now I can begin the process of closing you on this product. I can't do that unless you're interested. So the primary purpose of calling it no douchebag selling is to create interest. Right now, what no douchebag selling or selling authentically is all about: establishing and building relationships quickly. So we all know how to build relationships, right? We know how to talk to someone, how to get to know them a little bit, how to there's give and take in the conversation, and we build relationships rather slowly. In a sales relationship, you have to do that a lot quicker, right? The time is limited. We don't have days and days and weeks and months and years to close someone on our product or service. So you have to be intentional, but that intentionality is still about authenticity. So let me give you a perfect example, right? I say, Vince, you're interested in hiring me as your business coach. I say, okay, great. It's $65,000 a year. And you say,
I don't know.
Right, because you can't afford it, right? Like that's way too expensive. Now, I can start in with you about, well, look, Vince, this is an investment in you, right? You're investing in yourself. The money that you spend with me today will pay off in dividends in years, right? So what I'm telling you over and over again, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. What you're thinking is wrong. Vince, when was the last time someone told you that you're wrong and you felt, oh, I feel so good about being wrong?
If I don't look at it constructively, I've got big issues.
Right? It's just that we don't like being told that we're wrong.
Yep.
Right. So instead of telling someone that they're wrong, the authentic approach, right? If you're hanging out with a friend and a friend says something, you're going to go wrong, right? You have a conversation with them. You want to be kind, right? So you do the same thing. So I'm going to give your audience, I'm going to give you who are listening right now, I'm going to give you something to say, an authentic response to say when someone says, I can't afford it. Right? The number one objection that you get in business is, I can't afford it. The thing that you want to say, 4 little words. Hey, I get it. Hey, I get it. Right? Not you're wrong, not you don't understand, not you got to think about it this way. You're essentially telling the person, you're right. It is very expensive. Now, the reason a lot of salespeople won't do that is because it's like, well, if I agree with you that it's too expensive, I lose the sale. Not true. When you agree with someone, you get on the same side as them. They feel connected to you. Oh, we're in agreement about something, right? If you and I have the same political beliefs or religious beliefs or whatever beliefs about cartoons, right? We feel connected. So you want that person to feel connected. Hey, I get it, right? Vince, look, when I went to buy my Tesla and I looked at the price, the first thing I said is, I can't afford it. And it was such a bad feeling because I wanted that car more than anything, right? This is the car of my dreams. I can't afford it. It's a terrible feeling. But here's what I realized, Vince, really quickly. The reason that I was so bummed out wasn't because I was afraid I couldn't get the car. I could get it. What I was afraid of is that if I start missing payments on that car, someone's going to come and they're going to take that car, they're going to get in that car and they're going to drive it away. And I'm going to have to sit there watching them drive my car away. And that's a feeling I didn't want to have. And I have a sense that if we were to coach together, like, I'm sure you can make the first payment, but what if it doesn't work out? It's a terrible feeling. So would it be okay if instead of just, I can't afford it, if we talked a little bit about that feeling, understanding that you might not become a client, but can we just have an honest conversation about the feelings that you're having right now? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. I would love that.
Okay. All right. So notice, I'm not telling you that you're wrong. I'm sharing a personal story. I'm opening you up to the idea that we are the same. I get scared too. I can't afford things too. But let's have an honest conversation about what I can't afford it means instead of just ending the conversation there. Because the truth is, if things end with affordability, we never get to possibility. If we talk about affordability, we never get to possibility. And possibility is where we want to live, right? Right now, I can hop in my car, punch in a destination, and watch movies as the car takes me there. That is possibilities.
You certainly got my mind going in a million directions of positivity. Everyone out there, use him as inspiration. Just stick around a bit longer. We'll find out how to get in touch with him, how to request some services from him. But Dan, something I'd like to ask each guest on the show, if you could choose any entrepreneur, dead or alive, to sit down with, talk with, have a conversation with, who would you choose?
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Let's talk about it.
Dr. King is a hero of mine for many, many reasons. His entrepreneurial spirit was about bringing something new into the world. And what he did was stand in the fire of other people's disapproval to bring his vision to the world. And this categorically is what every successful person throughout history, from Christ to Richard Branson, has had to do, to stand in the fire of the disapproval of other people who tell you that you're freaking crazy and move forward on a vision. I'm going to tell you a little story about Dr. King that a lot of people don't know. And that is that his I Have a Dream speech was mostly improvised, That he was out there, he was giving a speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and the speech wasn't working. And he knew it wasn't working. And there he is in front of 1 million people doing a presentation that wasn't working. I've done presentations in front of 50, 100, 500 people that don't work. It feels awful. Imagine 1 million. Now, somebody who he trusted, blanket on her name, it's killing me, but she was on the dais. And earlier that day, Dr. King had shared a literal dream that he had about Black and white children playing together. And she yelled out, "Tell him about your dream, Martin." And he did it. He took the risk of sharing that story, and that story improvised into I Have a Dream. Now, the courage to pivot on something that isn't working is amazing. These are all aspects of entrepreneurialism. I could go on about this guy, but you get the picture, right? These are the qualities of successful entrepreneurs. People who are willing to pivot, people who are courageous, people who stand in the fire of other people's disapproval, people who have a vision and move forward on that vision. It has to be that way.
I love the analogy there, even when I dissect my entrepreneurial journey, school speaker, COVID. Yeah. What direction am I going and where am I going to end up? And now here we are, loving it at Coming Alive podcast production. But Dan, I can't thank you enough for taking some time coming on this show too. Again, everyone, he has an awesome podcast. He's about to show some love to that, I hope. Also about his coaching practice, everywhere else to find him online.
So really easy to find me. Just do a Google search for Coach Dan Gordon, Gordon, Gordon. Check out my podcast called For Badass Entrepreneurs Only! I don't want you listening to that unless you're a badass entrepreneur. It'll just freak you out. And there's something I want to give you. I want to give you who are listening right now. A number of years ago, when I was doing a presentation on selling, someone yelled out from the audience, "Selling is bullshit." And I said, that sounds like a book. I'm going to write that book. So I'm going to give you that book. You can go and buy it on Amazon, but I follow the teachings of the great philosophers, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Give it away now. So I'm going to give it to you. All you have to do is text BS, as in bullshit, BS to this number, 213-409-8366, 213-409-8366, and text the letters BS. Text BS 213-409-8366, and you'll get a free copy of my book, Selling is Bullshit.
Thank you for the generous offer, and thank you so much for taking the time again to join the show. Everyone who's viewing and here watching on today, thank you for joining us. Thank you for helping make this a top 2.5% global show. Check them out online. Take advantage of that book offer. The show is at That Entrepreneur Show on all podcast platforms, all social media platforms. So please like, subscribe, leave a review for our guest of honor. My name is Vincent A. Lanci. You can find me on social media and vincentalanci.com. Big shout out to our partner, johnford.com, with his empathy app and card set, and Coming Alive podcastproduction.com. But with that, we're signing off today. Coach Dan Gordon, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks, brother. It's been a treat.
Oh, thank you. And let's give a quick thumbs up before we hop off today. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next episode here on That Entrepreneur Show.